Maryland sports fans, there's only one sports book in the great state of Maryland with over 50 years experience booking bets and supporting customers. Betfred Sportsbook at Longshots is now open and is the only sportsbook in Frederick offering cash betting on football, basketball, world soccer, and more. Visit the Betfred Sportsbook at I-270 and MD-85 in Frederick, right next to Longshots off-track betting. Go to betfredsports.com for more information and your chance to win exclusive merchandise. Must be 21 or older. Play responsibly. For help, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
What's up, everybody? It's ImmaLetYouFinish with Courtney and Amy on Pantheon Podcast Network. It is show number 80.
80. We're 80. We're 80 years old.
We're 80 years old. It's been a good 80 ride, and that's not a big number to celebrate. When we get to 100, we'll do a big old 100 show.
We'll have cake.
We remember when we were trying to say, like, can we get to 10? And here we are at 80. So thank you guys.
We were trying to figure out where do we plug the mic in, and do we have to lean into one mic like the Beatles?
The adventures of this show and recording in the beginning. We've gone everywhere to some closet in Brooklyn where the show sounded like just madness. Madness.
Things are more better now. Well, one person who won't be having a show is the struggling underground indie singer Adele. And okay, all right. I mean, look, at the end of the day, she canceled. At the end of the day, this is what it is. At the end of the day, in my opinion, and I honestly, no disrespect, but Adele's career and her shows do not give me. I don't lose a minute of sleep over it because she'll be fine. Right. But at the end of the day, this is just a situation where the show was not ready to go. And I will say this as a teacher whose students are now using the COVID excuse as the dog ate my homework. You can't keep playing the COVID. That's not, let me amend this. None of this has been verified. This is all sources say, rumors say. The Daily Mail is no more source of credible information than my cat, who is very credible, as you know. But basically the shows have been postponed / canceled. And it's unfortunate. It's just chaotic. And as you know, Courtney, because you've worked in, things happen. She wanted a certain kind of show. From what I read, she wanted a more intimate kind of Adele in the round kind of show. And Caesars wanted a showbiz show, you know? Anyway, so what do you think about it?
I think that you're Adele. No one can make Adele I've worked with some of the biggest artists in the world. No one's making you do a show you don't want to do. My only issue is everybody knew this show was not ready. It is irresponsible on everyone involved to cancel a show 24 hours in advance when you already had very expensive tickets and people coming from all over the globe to see you. So I think that canceling with a tearful video in 24 hours in advance, it's like, okay, great, fine. But you guys knew this show wasn't ready. You knew it. So cancel the show or postpone it, and don't let people spend their money on a plane ticket to come somewhere.
Right.
And, and spend the hotel, get your hotel, you're checked in, and you're not going to be there. Every side involved. I understand she might have been fighting with Caesars, but they knew who they were getting. This is like Celine Dion had beautiful things in the show. Celine Dion did not fly off of anything, but she had acrobat and different shit. They knew what they were getting. To me, this sounds like a mess on both sides. It sounds like an artist who was undecided about really what she wanted, and people on the other side who were probably rushing because, fun fact, to sign her to do this residency, this is the thing that they don't know. Caesars had other artists on books to do shows and kind of push their dates. So I'm sure they were turned out because her not doing these dates, they pushed out other residencies that they had lined up for those dates. And now you're going to be sitting there with an empty theater if this show doesn't get up and running.
I think also that, my joking around, I'm not joking around about COVID, but I think what has happened, especially in places like Las Vegas and Nevada, that are not as vaccinated as other places. Right. I think what's happened is that people are so ear tuned to the next catastrophe that they want to get it in while they can. But I would think ultimately she's Adele, for Christ's sake. She can do it. If she wanted to sit there and strum a ukulele, she could get away with it.
That's the whole thing.
Adele
has never done a concert that has explosions and fires.
She's not that artist. She's not that artist. She's not a dancer. She's not she has a choir behind her and a band, and that's it. And maybe a few nice, obviously she'd have to have some interesting lighting and projections or whatever, but whatever. You're not going to Adele for a theatrical experience. It is not an extravaganza when you go see Adele. I will say though, yes, I feel sorry for the people who flew in and blah, 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 blah. But it is worth it because they could always they found that one queen who was ready to go on CNN and talk about, oh my
ready.
God, sitting by the phone, waiting for John Berman to call him up and to go, oh, it was great. And then Adele talked to me on the phone. And then I got a tote bag and I love her. And it's like, they must have gone through the ticket list and go, Nashville. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's that one queen that will go on TV and make it okay because Mama Adele. I think he did call her Mama Adele, and I almost threw myself off my couch. Because you don't get to be Mama Adele. No. But anyway, she'll be okay. It's a drag. She'll be okay. But I don't need to see anyone's. Every time I see,
I really don't give a shit.
There's. I care. No, I don't care either. I don't care about most of these people. I don't care really about any of these people. Let's be honest. Full disclosure. Okay, guys, full disclosure. We actually really fundamentally don't care about any of these people, but because we are professionals, we are bringing this lack of concern to you. So, yeah, she'll be fine. Great singer. Let the backlash begin. All right. Somebody I do care about very much is Neil Young and always have. I think everybody who's listening to this knows who Neil Young is. So Neil Young has decided he is said to Spotify. Mm-hmm. He has said to Spotify, okay, here's the deal. You want to have Joe Rogan on my show, and Joe Rogan is a troll and a horrible human being. You want to have Joe Rogan on your show, and he earns him billions of dollars.
On your streaming service.
Streaming service. Yeah. You want to have the Joe Rogan show, right? And Joe Rogan has nothing but COVID misinformation all the time. If you want to have him on the show, that's great. I don't want my music on your channel, on your streaming service. He's not saying, before Republicans start freaking out, he's not saying cancel Joe Rogan. He's never said get rid of Joe Rogan. He's just saying you got a choice. You can have Joe Rogan lying every day for 3 hours and putting people's lives in danger, or you can have my music. So
Spotify will pick Joe Rogan.
Oh, of course they will. That's the easiest pick in the world. Of course they're going to pick Joe Rogan because they paid more money than God for him. But good for him. And I am so up to here with these cancel culture. No one's saying he's not calling for a cancel. Mm-hmm. He's not saying anything.
What's so funny about the people in the cancel culture that because they had no problem canceling the Dixie Chicks. They canceled them right away. And were very proud of it and had no problem when people were kneeling silently canceling the NFL for a season.
Canceled Sinead O'Connor. Yeah. None. Yeah. So like I said, I am on team Neil Young anyway for pretty much anything. Mm-hmm. But and Joe Rogan is a piece of human garbage, as is Fox News. These people, it is past the point of they are spreading lies. Yes, they have a constitutional right to do it. If Spotify were smart, they would put a disclaimer before the show. But I support. They won't. No. But I support Joe. So good for Neil Young, and I hope other artists. I hope other artists do the same because it's reached the point. This is ridiculous at this point. This thing could be over if people would just get vaccinated, and that's it. they get vaccinated, we'd all be doing much better.
To me, it's just amazing to watch how lying has become normal on so many sides of so much shit. It's just no one's offended by it. People want to believe what they want to believe. It's like, what's the end game? Are we just supposed to eat each other and destroy? I just don't understand what the end game is.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you, like I was talking about this whole stupid expression, my truth. There is no my truth. There's either the truth or there's not the truth. My truth is that today's Tuesday. It's actually Wednesday. But my truth is that it's Tuesday. So as long as we have people allowed to say whatever they want to say and then go, but my truth. We're always people have always lied, but now your lies are amplified and given agency and given importance. When I was a girl, a Joe Rogan would have been yanked off the air for doing the stuff he's doing. Right. But there's an audience for it. I don't know why, but there is. That's fine. But if I were an artist, if I were a musician right now who had an ounce of human decency and morality, I would say, hey, take my music off they don't need it. They don't need it. Take my music off your service. Just take it off. That's fine. And then we'll see. That's the only thing that works is finances. You hit somebody in the pocketbook. That's the only thing that works, right? That's the only thing that works. You want to talk a little bit about the governor's ball? Have you ever been to the governor's ball? I've never been to the governor's ball.
I am not a festival person.
Right.
It's not my thing.
But with one of your artists,
it's like, I haven't.
Okay. Do you know why why is it called the governor's ball?
I have no idea.
Was it because originally on Governor's Island? I'm being serious. I can't think
maybe
of why.
Maybe it was.
Yeah, I can't think of why it was called. Well, it was on Randall's Island for a while, which is like the worst place to get to, the worst place in the world to get to. And now it's going to be at Citi Field because, the Mets will have fucked it all up by then anyway.
Right. Right.
The lineup is fairly not our age category.
Again, it's that Halsey person again. I think I saw Halsey.
Stop.
No, listen.
Stop.
I can have my feeling about Halsey.
You can, but don't get it. Halsey person. Come on.
What? I don't get it. I just don't even understand.
Well,
I don't understand.
Why?
I don't even try. Like, who are her fans? Like, who are the Halsey fans?
Well, first off, she's headlining, so clearly somebody.
Somebody, but who? Like. Who do you know who's ever called you and said, have you heard the new Halsey record?
Bill Coleman.
No, you read that on his face.
No, he never calls me anyway. Listen, I think that she's a credible, good artist. I think she made a very good record this year. She made very good pop songs. I have no problem with her. And I am always proud and happy when a woman is headlining a festival. And I'm going to leave it at that because there's a lot of artists. I could get into a discussion with you about a lot of artists where I'm like, I don't get it. I don't get it. They're not talented. If you don't like her music, that's perfectly fine. But she is a credible, viable artist. Does she sell a ton of records? No, she does not. But the point is that I give it to any artist who is trying to do something a little outside the box. I will give it to her.
I like to rag on her, but here's the thing.
I know.
I will say this. I really don't get it. But there's been a couple of, I have a lot of her music because I'm still on all the promo lists, right? So I get a lot of her remixes too, and top tier DJs remix stuff. And when I hear some of the songs, I don't hate the vocal. I just think she has that voice that sounds like a lot of other
I think she's
out there.
I don't think she sounds like anybody. That's what's so interesting. I think she has a very different kind of sounding voice, but there are a lot of singers out there. I'm just like, I'm not like Team Hall. I mean, we should say
I had no idea she owns a beauty brand. Did you know that? She owns
why not?
She's like one of the ones that people are like some natural vegan beauty situation that people
like I said,
like.
I'm not like walking around Halsey, but I just do. I'm glad to see women headlining. I have to give her credit that someone who's coming from a pop dance kind of background suddenly decides to make a hard rock record. Who else is headlining? Kid Cudi, who bless it. I know he's like a rapper's rapper and a singer, but he's headlining a show. He's headlining a festival.
But people love him.
No, they do.
They love him.
He's very
and,
much
he's really like, he's the actor. He gives the music thing.
He's like a Wale kind of thing where he has his audience. And J. Cole is also headlining.
And, that'd be huge. People love him.
People love Jake. It's really interesting. The audience J. Cole gets, because on paper he should be lumped in with the commons and the conscious rappers, but girls love him.
They love him.
Girls love him. And that's, to me, a sign. That's a good sign that girls love somebody who's not typically cute and who is a normal human being and married and has a kid and educated and is not performing sexist.
Because that's who girls all really want. They like the bad boys, but really, your husband needs to be that kind of, you like a guy who's smart. He seems like a smart guy.
Oh, he's a very smart guy.
And smart is really attractive. You know what I mean? It's really
not when you're 16 years old. It isn't. I'm saying girls love him, not women. Girls. I'm talking about teenage girls. Bless their hearts, but no teenage girl is going, you know what I want? I want the funny looking smart guy. Girls. Not. All right. Well, what a great segue. Speaking about boys versus girls and boys who love girls, Damon Albarn has decided to pick a fight with Taylor Swift, which is like Godzilla versus Mothra. Okay.
First of all.
Well, let's explain. You want to explain a little bit what it is? All right. So Damon Albarn, who, in case you don't know who he was Blur in the Blur Oasis war. I was Team Oasis all the way. And he's been the mastermind and leader of the Gorillaz. He makes good music. I've seen Gorillaz. They're really, really good. So he did an interview with the LA Times, and he replied to an interviewer calling Swift, quote, an excellent songwriter. And he said by stating she doesn't write her own songs. And then Twift. That's her new name. Not Taylor Swift. Twift.
Well, no. Then no. Before that, then the reporter strike back. She does write her songs, and he said, "Well, no, she co-writes her songs, which is a songwriter who co-writes is different than a songwriter."
Right. He said that doesn't count. I know what co-writing is. Co-writing is very different to writing. I'm not hating on anybody. I'm just saying there's a big difference between a songwriter and a songwriter who co-writes. Okay, first off, so I went to the Googles. Every one of his songs has a co-writer. He has never written a song all by his lonesome, to the best of my ability, starting with Blur to Gorillaz. Lennon and McCartney, are they songwriters or are they co-writers? Right. Jagger and Richards, are they Ashford and Simpson? I mean, do we need to go down the back rack? How even in back? What is he trying? What I don't get is Courtney. And of course, he's had the back scramble because Taylor Swift, whatever you think about her, she writes her own songs. What is he trying? What is the point he was getting? I don't get it. I find
myself defending Taylor Swift,
but you do that every week. You do know that. You preface it every week.
Because, like I've said, I'm not a huge Taylor Swift fan, but I do appreciate. I've watched her fight for artists. I watched her fight for women in music. I mean, I've watched her use her fame to really fight for real shit. And the one thing I do not like is there's a lot of people that call themselves artists and blah, blah, blah. I don't like when you kind of shit on something that you know that somebody obviously does. The one thing about this woman is she is a songwriter and she writes her songs. And I think to come for that kind of low-hanging fruit, it's just desperate and dumb. And it just seems like some old cranky white guy rocker. I'm too cool. So you know what? Let me just slag off Taylor Swift and come for the thing that really made no sense. It was like, what are you saying? It makes no sense.
Well, the thing that drove me nuts is that this guy has been making records since 1994. Okay. He is, and for him to go, I was taken out of context. It's like, wah. Please, when you're speaking to a microphone, it's recording. You were not taken out of context. That's what you said. I just don't, like you're saying, I don't understand what the end game is. I mean, there are so many people out there that you could credibly say they don't really write their own material. Whatever you think of her, she writes her own stuff. Now that said, there's a co-writer and a writer. She's never claimed that she doesn't have collaborators.
No, and she does. And
you can see them listed on the record.
And remember, when they had that whole moment of trying to say she didn't write her songs, one of her big multi-million selling albums, Speak Now, she wrote every song herself.
Yeah,
she wrote all of it. It's like the girl writes her songs. It's like you can say you can have a problem with the way she sings her songs, and I can sit along with you and be like, yes, I've had some issues with the way she sings her songs. But I'm never going to say that. First of all, she writes great songs. They're constructed and produced extremely well. Like even if you don't like her, like there's certain things you have to be able to appreciate because it's all there. So I would never, ever, listen, I just hate when people come for the low-hanging fruit. If you're going to try to be so austere and you're so haughty-taughty, then at least come with some real shit and make a real point. But don't say something so stupid that you immediately are like, you try to be like, oh, clickbait. It's like, clickbait because they took that portion of your story, or clickbait because you're acting
he has a history of going after women too. And he was in a relationship with Justine Fleischman, I believe, from Elastica, and he kind of attacked her songwriting ability. He is reportedly called Adele insecure after they worked together on music that was never released. I mean, the point is that I just don't get, he ends up looking really stupid on this. And to no avail, because at the end of the day, he didn't answer the question. You're not explaining the difference between a songwriter. Yes, is Taylor Swift an auteur? Does she produce and arrange and do everything herself? No, she does not. There are not that many outside of Stevie Wonder. I can't think of many artists who do that. But the thing is, go on the internet, Google Damon Albarn, and look at the credits, and every single one of his songs has at least 4 to 5 people working with him, and that's fine. That's fine. I just didn't get it. It's just like a kind of a dick move on his part. But that's why I always rooted for Oasis,
Which says a lot, because I mean, who rooted for them?
Everybody. You want me to give you a list of people who rooted for Oasis? With the exception of Barney and Mark. I love it. They're great. Well, but he wrote his own songs, Noel Gallagher. I mean, they may have been copied off of somebody, but he wrote his own song. So it's just such a like iceberg Goldberg. All right. So she wrote 3/4 of it and somebody filled in. It's not like it's one of these situations with modern R&B and pop where you have songwriting camps and each person puts in a syllable, like it's a puzzle. Yeah. He just looks like a dope, but he is talented. I'll give him that. All right, so we once again newsflash: people die. It's sad. Courtney and I have tried to prevent this from happening, but it just doesn't. We can't do it. Your powers are not. So, would you like to talk a little bit about Meatloaf? Because I have to be really honest with you.
No. I mean, like, I didn't really. Okay. Hi, Courtney.
Stop.
Courtney. Yeah. Would you like to be the one to talk about Meatloaf? Sure. I mean,
I thought you liked
okay.
that stuff.
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
I love the Jim Steinman music. You know me, I love Jim Steinman.
Yeah.
And for me, the bigger Meatloaf, I realize I say for me a lot. I'm like, for me,
you're speaking your truth.
I'm speaking my truth because I'm a patriot.
He's wearing a flag now.
Now I am.
That's all he's wearing is a flag.
And I'm yelling at people outside my window.
Be careful, Courtney.
I went to see the Rocky Horror. I was a Rocky Horror Picture Show person. I saw Rocky Horror Picture Show like 50 something times in the movies at the 8th Street Playhouse. I used to go on the weekends, and so he was, he was in Rocky Horror. So when I think of him, I think about Eddie and Hopatootie, and I love Bat Out of Hell's a great album. It's a classic. When I got to Sony, I was ordering all of the albums I didn't have, and that was one that I ordered. But he was never my go-to rock guy.
Right.
I understood why people liked him.
No, I was teasing about that. I know you like Jim Steinman a lot.
And I do. I'm a huge, I love that big, dramatic, operatic thing. And, here's the thing. We don't know. He passed away of COVID. He was an anti-vax person, and he's on the record saying, "If I die, I die."
Anti-mask mandate.
He believed whatever his politics were, and so if he died for his beliefs, then that's all I can say. As a human being, as human beings, and we're good people. Obviously, it's sad when people die and they die young, but at some point, if you're being offered the tools, it's like someone who chain smokes or someone who drives without a seatbelt and they crash and they die. And it's like, but you had a seatbelt there. That's the thing. I'm looking like your death was preventable.
It was preventable because unfortunately, yes. So
I know some people in my life who that choice happened, and it's really, it breaks my heart because it's like, wow. You're really like, you're not pretend dead. You're like really dead.
Right.
And this seems like it didn't have to happen.
Can I tell you something? Can I make a confession?
Mm-hmm.
I have only seen the Rocky Horror Picture Show on television. I was living in San Francisco when it came out, I think. So I was but they had shows like that.
I was going to say, of course, San Francisco.
No, but I never went. Yeah, of course, I know.
Especially back then.
No, for sure. Yeah, but I never saw it in a theater.
Really?
Yeah. I found that.
The experience?
I know. I just found that kind of. I am not an audience participant.
Yeah, the experience at the 8th Street. It was always.
No, amazing. I know. I'm not that girl. I'm a little too. But yes, it is. Okay. Louis Anderson, I have to be very honest. I'm not that familiar with him, but I know, like Bob Saget, was beloved. I mean, absolutely beloved.
I remember him because he would do stand-up a lot with Roseanne back in the day. And I remember them being on like a lot of the same comedy stuff. And he was always really funny. And he was really funny in Baskets and in Coming to America. Remember, remember at McDowell's, he's the...
Oh, right! Oh, my goodness. Yes. I totally forgot about that. Yes. God, well, there's a lot of media to absorb. And then Thierry Mugler, who fashion designer and director and perfume maker and those really kind of severe, exaggerated forms. And what would you say his best known for those of us who don't buy couture, what would you say his best known moment is? The George
I would say for mainstream folks, it would be the George Michael Too Funky video. Okay. I think for a lot of people have seen his clothes, but for a lot of mainstream people, the Beyonce tour, the Beyonce Experience tour, and he did all of the costumes for that. So when she had his vintage motorcycle corset and all of that, and that was all Terry. And I want to say, I saw some of his people, and I was at the first show, and I believe I saw him. I never met him.
Okay.
But I remember that whole time, and it was just like everybody was around,
Is he now the Too Funky video though? Ultimately, George Michael took over the directing of it. Like Thierry Mugler directed, and then George Michael. So the version that we're the most familiar with is the George Michael where he's behind the camera.
But you can see it online. There is
we posted it.
Yeah, we posted it. There is his edit, which was a lot more, a little more.
A lot more. You could just leave it at it's a lot more.
Yeah.
I have to tell you honestly. I mean, the George Michael one is a little tighter. And focuses more on the music and the women, but
which is what George wanted because it was a music video for a song.
Go figure. What a crazy concept. I'm a musician. I'm doing a video. I'd like to focus on the music. Thierry Mugler, I'm a fashion designer. I'd like the fashion. I focus on the fashion.
Right. Exactly.
I don't understand why there was a conflict. That's really strange to me. what you listening to these days?
I have been, well, because the Janet Jackson doc airs this week, I've really been digging into my Janet Jackson catalog, especially her first album, the one that was mostly produced by like Renee and Angela. But what I really dug out of the fucking blue was Bernadette Cooper's 1990 solo album, The Drama According to Bernadette Cooper, that she wrote and produced. And, for most of you guys, I'm sure if you don't know, Bernadette Cooper was one of the she really was the founding member of Climax, and then hired everybody. They all came together and it became the whole situation. And then she produced records with and for a lot of people, including putting together this other band, Madam X, which is an album I also pulled out and was listening to. They made one album called Madam X. And they're both really, well, let me say, Bernadette's album is such a quirky, weird concept album, but her writing is so, at that time in 1990, R&B wasn't ready for those kind of songs, and just like, they didn't fit the box of what an R&B album
back then
would
it was
be.
sort of New Jack.
New
right?
Jack. Was New Jack. Yeah. And this had elements of New Jack, but just the lyrics, stuff she was singing about, they just couldn't get it. She had the first single from the album, a song called I Look Good. Which
I remember that.
Remember I Look Good? That was really good.
Yeah.
And my shit was Howard Hughes' Love Affair, and
she's another one of these women. And like LaBelle, listen, if LaBelle hadn't had that fluke hit with Lady Marmalade, they would still be a cult group.
Without having any, because they had some R&B hits, records. But they didn't sell records. They have a lot of amazing albums. Yeah. But again,
that one song.
You know what I mean?
Which was like none of their other songs.
So I don't believe Bernadette's album is on streaming, but it is all over YouTube. And I have it on MP3. So if any of my friends who are listening to the show want to hear it, I can send you a file of the album. But it's just a weird one that I love. And my best friend, Fred, he loved that album too. And my girl, Stephanie loves that album. Okay. So of course, it's just one of those really, Bernadette was just ahead of her time, really super, super, super talented. And I just thought, I pulled that out again this weekend and started really appreciating her work. It's like, we really need to sit down and maybe talk about on a future show and get somebody in and have a guest. The underappreciated female producers that nobody ever talks about.
Oh, well, come on.
Let's talk, especially Black, was Bernadette, Angela Wimbush, Tina Marie, and just really go in and talk about these women who wrote and produced and for a lot of other people, had hits of their own, had bands, different iterations of their career, and no one ever brings them up. It's just kind of like they're lost in the ethos somewhere.
Well, because like being president, people seem to think that being a producer, you need to have a penis to do it because no one will listen to you. Unless there have been a lot of, not enough obviously, but a lot of great women producers who have
Patrice Rushen, what I mean? It's like,
and also they just don't have Joan Jett was a really good producer. They just don't have, I don't think women, we're not trained to have that kind of ego, and you need a degree of ego in some way to be a producer. That would be an interesting thing to talk about. But she's really, really,
I buy that. There's a lot of really great female producers now. I know their power. I think that we need to remind people of these women that were producing, because they were out there and they were doing it, and we just don't talk about them enough. And you know what? Check for that, guys. That's gonna come, because we need to really start highlighting some of these ladies and some of the rock ladies. They were doing that shit, and some of them are still doing it. Still out there producing records and doing their thing.
Well, I have a news flash for you. I know this is going to shock you, and I want you to hold on to something when I say this. Are you prepared to be shocked? Women are not treated as equally as men.
Oh my God.
I know. I'm sorry. You're my friend, and I hate to fuck up your day.
That hurt me so much.
I know. I hate to fuck up your day, and I hope that you can get past this and you won't binge eat, to get through the pain.
I will, because I have some broccoli Rob that's in the other room
broccoli
right now. I'm going to binge eat it.
After I dip it in chocolate.
Right.
It's so funny. two records I want to talk about. One, for some reason, I'm like that. I'm sometimes the person that likes the record that tanks.
Mm-hmm. I always love the records that tank. Bernadette's record tanked. It was a full tank.
No, but I'm talking about the record that tanks after you had the huge hit record.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I have always been like on the low a fan of Tony Rich's second album.
Oh, okay.
Bird's Eye. I don't know why. Well,
because Tony Rich project was super, super talented. And that second album was written and sang really, really well. But it is
a great hooky little weird song. Yeah. And I like it. And Tony Rich, talk about somebody who should have been a contender. Like he should have had a huge career.
And when it came out the box with Nobody Knows was such a big hit,
massive.
It was like, right, boom, first single, major label.
Written up every he had the support of LaFace Records, which at that time could do no wrong.
To this day still loves that song. She still loves it.
The story I had heard, and you would know, the story I had heard is he started getting career advice from Prince, and you can't pull a Prince move on your first record. You have to kind of wait several albums before you start showing up to interviews with a cloak on and not and speaking in the third person and doing all that kind of shit. So he continues to record. I mean, he's made records since then, but I think he kind of they were like, no, you're not Prince. Sorry, you can't. So he kind of pissed off the wrong people or pissed off people. But the second album is called Bird's Eye. And
do we know that to be true though?
No, I said a story. I said a story. Right. I heard. But it makes sense. Prince was in his ear a lot back then. Only Prince could have gotten away with what Prince got away with. You can't get away with that kind of. Prince was an anomaly. He managed to do things, but he also had the sales records to back it up. I have not paid attention, really, really, truly paid attention to Elvis Costello for years, just because I don't know. He married Diane Krall, and I'm like, whatever, and he keeps putting out records. And if you're of a certain age, of which I am, those first couple Elvis Costello records like defined your world. There was nothing like it. He put out a record last year, which I've just listened to, called Spanish Model, which is this year's model entirely in Spanish with Spanish artists. But the record I'm listening to now, a brand new album called A Boy Called If, which is with his band, The Imposters, which is basically The Attractions with a different bass player. Holy shit. This is like classic back to basics Elvis Costello. And one of my favorite albums is Imperial Bedroom. That's a gorgeous record. So I don't mind if he doesn't do his regular thing, but A Boy Called If, tight, ferocious kind of, pop rock songs. Nicole Atkins is on it. I'm a big fan of Nicole Atkins. It's really good. So it's called A Boy Called If by Elvis Costello. And I like me likey.
I wish I had something new on my list, because I got to tell you, so much comes across and I listen to it and nothing sticks. There's nothing to stick.
Can I tell you honestly, this was because someone whose taste I respect a lot, posted. I wouldn't have even known he had a new record out.
Right.
Because he's on a small label, and I haven't been checking for him for a while. But someone I know whose taste I appreciate told me, and I went, that's how I found out about that Holly Humblestone person, because Bill Coleman. I read stuff and I go, I like what you usually like. Let me check it out.
Yeah.
And it's no harm, no foul, right? You go on Spotify, you click something. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. Right. So, this is not a good time. Right now is not when the new music is coming.
Well, it's January.
You listen to The Weeknd. That's a new record.
I've still been listening to that, and I'm still listening to David Morales' Life is a Song, which actually comes out this week for everybody on all the streaming services. And it's just really good. And he's got an updated version of I Feel Loved, Donna Summer's I Feel Loved. And, I don't like any, don't touch Donna. Don't. But I like this version, so it makes me happy.
Right, which is why that Sam Smith version was just such.
We act like that did not happen.
No, sorry. Okay, sorry. You're right. Okay, it didn't happen. Okay.
I'm looking at them.
Our truth is that it did.
I'm looking at them and I'm like, Sam.
No.
Sam.
No. Yeah, you don't do that.
And I appreciate you.
I don't.
But let's not overstep our boundaries.
No.
You
don't do that.
Know your lane.
Know your lane. Know your lane, Sam.
The kids try to... Here's the thing about Donna Summer. Donna Summer had one of the purest voices. So when she sang those songs, like when she hit those notes, even when they were high and airy or strong and full, they were very full. There was no struggle note in there. There was no breaking it for a breath at this point. So I need all of those kids who'll be trying to sing Donna, but like take 4 extra breaths in the note. It's like, don't sing it because you can't, Blanche.
Well, yeah. I mean, just because you sing in falsetto does not make you a soul singer. Hitting falsetto does not make you a soul singer. And on that note,
I would like to end this show. And you guys know where to find us. Thank you for that. And Pantheon Podcast Network, really over 70 music shows. We're on Facebook at ImmaLetYouFinish. We're on IG at ImmaLetYouFinish NY. We're on Twitter at Finish Imma. But New York has been going through some really tough times lately. There's a lot going on. And there's been a shooting at a police precinct, my precinct, around the corner from my house. And 2 of the officers were killed. And one of them, when I saw his face on the TV, I recognized him. And I think that we all have to come to a place of reckoning and just try for the younger generations to really sit down and really kind of make some progress between our communities, the police, just everything, because these streets are really crazy. It's very upsetting to us here. That was a young man of color. You know, my father was in NYPD and he was born in Harlem Hospital in 1939. And he was a great cop because he was not afraid of people who look like him in his community. Just like this young man wanted to show a different side to police that we could be better. He was from his community and he lived in this community. So we're all hurting. There's crazy crimes. People are being shoved in front of trains. I just want us all to try to be better to each other, try to be kinder to each other, try to be nicer to each other, and just try to find some civility, because right now, with this pandemic still raging on, it all just seems a lot heavy. And I say this to you all the time. I don't know what the breaking point is, but I kind of feel like I'm at mine. And I really, really, really want peace. And in that note, we love you guys. Thank you for rocking with us. Stay safe. Wash your hands. Just try to love one another. Tell a friend you love them today. Do a kind act today. And we'll see you next week.
It's NFL draft season, and that means it's time to start thinking about fantasy football. FantasyPoints.com features industry-leading experts and prognosticators using proprietary hand-charted data to help you score more fantasy points. FantasyPoints.com is the place to go for whatever kind of fantasy football you play. Whether you play fantasy football, daily fantasy sports, or do a little bit of everything, Fantasy Points has the meticulously researched content to guide you to victory. And why wait for the fall? Fantasy Points also covers the new spring football league, the UFL. Join the guru, John Hansen, Scott Barrett, Joe Dolan, and other massive names in the fantasy football universe with an exclusive offer. Use code Pantheon for 15% off any Fantasy Points package, including the all-in package, with access to every article, tool, and data nugget that Fantasy Points has to offer. That's FantasyPoints.com and code Pantheon for 15% off at Fantasy Points. FantasyPoints.com, code Pantheon. Score more fantasy points.